Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Wanted to bring you a video today just kind of covering basics on Clan Boss and how to take your account kind of to the next step by making good decisions with your champions. This was a crucial part in getting my account from early game into sort of early mid, taking that next step into mid game. And there's a lot of information spread out sort of all over the place, and Clan Boss tends to be a topic that's kind of dead content for most people. Because once you get a team that can one or two key Ultra Nightmare, you sort of just never make changes to it. So, wanted to consolidate a lot of that information, share some tips and tricks that helped me, and hopefully that will help you if you're an early game player, maybe even a mid game player, to push into the next step. So, crucially, why do we do Clan Boss? Early on, Clan Boss is a great source of brews, of cruel gear and immortal gear, and shards critically. Advancing into higher difficulties will increase those rewards up to including gems and epic and legendary books. Those are super important because they are essential into progressing your champs and having your champions be good into and using them into the late game. 1 to 2 King Ultra Nightmare is sort of your doorway into the next stage of the game. And the reason I say that is because the amount of void shards, sacred shards, epic books, and legendary books that you get is not insignificant. In fact, probably the most generous source of all of those resources that you will use at the highest level of the game. I included a couple charts here. These are posted on Reddit every month by a user tracking his personal drops. These are somewhat random. There are drop chances for these resources, so your results may vary. I know I personally have had months where I had 10, 12, maybe even 15 legendary books, and I've had months where I've had 5. So it really does just sort of depend on your luck, but as with everything in Raid, things take time, building resources takes time, and over the course of a year, you will have a general return of about 8 to 10 sacred shards per month, and between 8 and maybe as high as 15 to 16 legendary books, and that can always be higher. You can always high roll and get several in a week, and experience that good luck there. So this is a crucial part of getting your account to the next step. It enables you to pull more sacred shards, complete fusions, book out champions that you would normally not be able to book out by just randomly playing the game, and allows you to gather those critical resources that are needed for completing events later in the game. So the basics with Clan Boss, like anything in the game, are going to be what your characters do, what debuffs and buffs they can provide. At a very basic level, decreased attack on the Clan Boss and decreased defense on the Clan Boss will directly increase your damage and your survivability. You're dealing more damage because of his decreased defense, and you are surviving longer because he is not dealing as much damage to you. The same applies to your champions as well, with increased attack and increased defense. These are critical buffs that every team should have in order to maximize the output and performance of your champions. A debuff cleanse is going to be a really important piece of that early team that you put together. There are ways around preventing the debuffs that the Clan Boss puts on you. But ultimately, if you cannot block debuffs, you have to figure out a way to get rid of them. There are rare champions that will do this. So it's generally a critical must-have piece of your team, being able to deal with whatever debuffs the Clan Boss will put on you. The Clan Boss will put different debuffs on you depending on what affinity they are, the most critical one being a decreased speed. I can't remember what affinity that is, but that must be cleansed or your results will be not very good. Your biggest source of early damage is going to be your poisons and your HP burns. The reason that this is the case is because poisons and HP burns deal damage based on the target's HP. So as the clan boss gets more and more HP as you go up in difficulty, these debuffs are going to deal more and more damage. And early poisoners are a very good source of damage because there are several that you can potentially get. Kale, the starter, being one of them. And then Frozen Banshee is a rare that also increases the amount of damage that those poisons do. So this is a very accessible way to deal high amounts of damage to the clan boss. Once you kind of get past the basics of what you're trying to achieve, once you get past those basics of increased, decreased attack and defense, cleansing, HP poisons, HP burns, and poisons, you can start working in some other debuffs. Weaken on the clan boss just directly increases the damage that they take. Increase speed for your team. This is a little bit more accessible as there are a lot of champions that do increase speed or increase turn meter. Leech is a good one to heal your champions, make them a little bit more survivable. And Smite is a really good debuff that comes with blessings that you should, at probably a late to early mid game level, have at least one champion with Smite on it. It's a big hit to the clan boss whenever it procs, and it will take your damage from maybe a 2 key, maybe a 3 key into that next key level just simply by having that debuff on the clan boss. It's really, really, really good. Early on, you will not most likely have the roster or the gear to support some of the more advanced strategies in Clan Boss because they generally are centered around specific champions. For instance, Seeker, for instance, any champions that do block damage, unkillable, things like that. There's quite a few of these advanced strategies. I've got a few listed here, but this is all dependent on what champions you pull. As you can see, this is a screenshot from my clan, Ultra Nightmare, several people 1-2 keying, and you can still see quite a few rares being used, or epics being used for that matter, on a lot of these teams. So some examples of this that you might look into later would be 3-to-1 speed tunes or 2-to-1 speed tunes, meaning that you take 3 turns for every 1 boss turn, or 2 turns for every 1 turn the boss takes. Another popular one is unkillable. This is generally better when you have extremely high damage dealers because the clan boss after 50 turns will simply hit through your block damage debuffs and essentially one-shot your whole team. Infinite Shields is another strategy. That's the current strategy that I use with a Wixwell-based team and 2 champions that extend buffs, and then one also that provides a shield. So that is also a popular one if you have a Wixwell, or I believe in Under Priest Brogni there may be some strategies with that. The last 3 are a little bit less popular, but I have seen them used to effect if you're forced into those situations. Buff or debuff extenders, HP, burn, or poison activators, meaning that the boss doesn't have to take the turn in order to take the damage. They activate the burn, activate the poison, and that damage is just dealt immediately instead of waiting for the boss's turn. And lastly, counterattack. Counterattack is a strategy that I used very early on. I managed to pull a Martyr as maybe my 3rd legendary champion, who has a slew of other buffs and debuffs that she brings to the team. And a counterattack team was what I used originally to 2-key Ultra Nightmare and start getting those daily resources to where I could build better champions to have a better result later on. The main thing with Clan Boss is just having a plan. Success depends entirely on you making sure that you know what you're doing going into it. It's not always going to be pretty. It's not always going to be perfect, but making sure you have some sort of plan, some sort of semblance of a team where you're thinking about it critically. Okay, this champion's going to do this champion's going to do this, then this champion's going to do this, will increase your odds of succeeding instead of just throwing in your best champs and just kind of letting whatever happens. Early teams, you may only have 1 to 2 champions, maybe 3 that are any providing any value as far as other utility, other debuffs to your team. Over time, that will work itself out. And as you rank up champions, you want to make sure there is a purpose to those champions. Clan boss really should be the first thing you work towards as far as making decisions on what champions to rank up and which not to. And so having a plan as to what champions are going to rank up and what their role is going to be within Clan Boss will take you from a novice into, and maintaining that mindset will take you from a novice into an expert in Clan Boss very, very quick amount of time. I did mention use the in-game team manager. That it will tell you your stats. It will tell you what speeds each champion is at, and so you can map out how each champion is going to work, and that's what this screenshot is. As far as just stats on your champions go, speed is always going to be king. At higher levels of Clan Boss, you will have what we call a speed tune, which means that you're making specific champions, specific speeds in order to perform specific roles. For instance, your support champions are generally going to be your faster champions, especially ones that provide an increased speed buff to your team. Right after that would be any champions that provide any sort of buffs to your team or debuffs to the boss. And then lastly, your nukers, and or maybe you just have one. They should be the slowest but still faster than the clan boss. That way you're getting the benefit of all your previous buffs and debuffs and doing exponential damage in comparison to if you were just hitting it without those buffs or debuffs. Right behind speed is accuracy. Obviously, if you're trying to land poisons, you're trying to land HP burns, decreased defense, decreased attack. You need to have the requisite accuracy in order to land those debuffs. There are breakpoints for this information. This is not a mystery. You can use either the Hell Hades website. It will tell you what the speed what the speed number is for the boss. It will tell you what the required accuracy number is to land your buffs and debuffs. So those are tools at your disposal that are perfectly free that you should be using in order to make sure you are succeeding at this. Going in blind and just throwing champions up against the wall you're going to have a really tough time with this. You want to put some thought into this, put some planning and preparation into this. And lastly, this is something that I experienced. I used to get really frustrated with my teams and how they performed, and I want them to perform better. I was impatient. I didn't have the gear that these high level accounts have. I didn't have the champions, and I thought, man, what's sort of the point of continuing this? And because I'm just getting nowhere. The reality is that everything takes a long time with Raid unless you're spending money. I am a spender, but I am a low to mid spender. I would say no more than $50 a month. Generally, I keep it to 30 if I spend anything at all. I think there were a couple months this year I spent nothing on the game. So it's not always one of those things where if you have some money to invest, okay, but for the most part, that's going to speed you up a little bit, but not get you to the end unless you're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, which you definitely should not do. Do not do that in a game. So try not to get frustrated. I know it's hard to do and easy to say because I experienced it as well, but the less you can get frustrated and get impatient, the easier of a time you're going to have to be. Champions come with time, gear comes with time and patience, and you just have to sort of grind it out. So for an early player, like within the first 30 to 60 days, your early champions that you're most likely going to be ranking up first using in Clan Boss are going to be Kale, War Maiden, High Katoon, simply because Kale has a big poisons on his A3 and a small poison on his A1. He's a starter champ that's completely free. And is going to be good in other areas. He has an AoE. He has, when he crits, he gets more turn meter. He's just an overall very good champion. War Maiden has the big 60% decreased defense on her A3. She's campaign farmable. You will most likely just get one while farming your gear in campaign. And this is a very good champion to rank up to 60 Obviously, doesn't hold a candle to other epic or legendary champions, but for an early game account, perfectly fine, and you will have opportunities to use her later in the game in other areas. The last champion I want to call out early is High Katoon. This is your 30-day login champ sheet. You will get her for free after playing the game for 30 days. She brings a full team increased speed, which is going to be very, very good for your team speed tuning and getting more turns on the boss, as well as bringing a decreased speed on her A1. So just an all-around solid champ. These were champions I used very, very early on when I was still in easy and normal clan boss. And then taking that next step from those early clan boss stages into the later ones. This is sort of just what I was just talking about. You most likely will rank up Kale as your starter champ, starting on easy. If you picked Kale, you probably rank him up. You farm up a War Maiden, you farm up speed and lifesteal gear from the campaign, and then complete your masteries. This is a big one that late game players forget that they probably ever did this, but farming up masteries to War Master on your champions with lifesteal gear will give you basically top off your life pools whenever it procs. It sort of removes the need for a healer early on. Eventually, you will have a support champ that does some healing that will heal your team through the damage the clan boss does, but early on, this is your source of healing. Poisons and HP burns will be your main source of damage early, most likely poisons. And then it's about, once you have a basis and a baseline of a team, you just start scaling it up. Achieving better results will come from better champions, performing in those same roles, and farming up better gear, which comes with time. So wanted to keep this video a little bit shorter than my last ones. I think I'm failing so far, but just as a summarization for Clan Boss, if you're an early game or a mid game account player and you're still working towards that Ultra Nightmare, be patient. Progress is slow in Raid Shadow Legends. It's a game that your account in a year will look completely different than in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And so that patience is it's just something that you have to do unless you want to spend a ton of money. When you get new champions, really carefully review what they do and understand their function within the game. Not every champion is going to be useful for Clan Boss. It just is what it is. There are lots of them that are, though, and lots that can fill in certain niche utilities while you wait for something better. So just make sure you're reviewing new champions that you get very carefully and working with what you have. Keep in mind that speed gear with speed stat on it is absolutely everything. If you are using non-speed boots, get rid of them. Go back to the campaign, farm up speed boots. They will make a massive difference. Even if they're gray boots, it does not matter. As long as the main stat is speed, use them. And then, of course, working towards that goal of getting to Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss, completing Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss with 1 or 2 keys, even 3 keys is worth it, in my opinion, to start getting those daily transcendent chests and start getting your books, your shards, your gems, and your brews. So just wanted to say thank you for watching. We're going to go ahead and cut this now. If there's any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to engage with people about their teams. What can I do with these champs? What can I do with this champ? It's actually one of my favorite things in the whole game is helping people with Clan Boss compositions at any level. So once again, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys have a great New Year's, and I will catch you later in the week.